and then they'll start smiling and they get moving. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. That's the go-to.
That's good. I'm sure they get hyped up for that.
Kind of. Unless they just want to be mad at me about something. And then just kind of.
Dad. Yeah, whatever.
Well, my oldest is 6, so she'll just give me this look, like this mean look with the scowl. And then I'll start saying it over and over, and then she'll crack a smile. And then life is good, and then she doesn't hate me so much. So it's good.
I just used to just tell mine that I'd put coal in their stocking. And then they didn't believe me until I did. She searched all over that house for that. She was like, I know you did it. I know you did it. And I was like, go look around. You can look in our room. She looked everywhere. I just still know you did it.
You can't prove a thing.
I am the king of empty threats to my daughter. But he's 3.5, so Christmas works year round.
I've heard a lot of the elf on the shelf threats, like they name their elf, and then it's just like, so and so. You're gonna like what I'm gonna do to so and so.
Ralphie sees you. Ralphie sees you. Don't be naughty. Ralphie sees you. Oh Lord.
And this is a good opportunity to say that we're live. The Fake Pigskin Open Bar, nearly
featuring Ralphie.
Ralphie off on the shelf. Watch out, kids. Live almost every Tuesday, not so much in the off season, about twice a month or so, and 9:30 Eastern, never late. Show up early and we'll buy you a drink or two. J Mike, what's up, dude? Haven't seen you in so long.
It's been a minute, man. Where you been, man? Oh, I mean, seriously, where you been?
Literally right here. Like, I kept the YouTube live open the entire time, just waiting for you to come back. I was like,
just 2 straight weeks of sitting right there. That man bun's looking extra crispy. It's actually, in fact, crispy because you haven't watched it in 2 weeks. Man, that's something.
Yeah.
Oh, but you look good. The goatee's popping. You've got the Tom Selleck stash with it.
I'm grinding, man.
See you.
I was in a student teacher basketball game, and I had the full handlebar. I had cornrows. I mean, I was literally a mess. So I'm just happy to be back in my.
Wait, can we go back to you having cornrows real quick?
I can't believe I didn't tell you.
Because over my life, I've had cornrows. I had locks for a few years, but I need you to give me the play-by-play on your cornrows. Like, did you have a design? Because your hair's pretty long. I mean, you've got some serious salad.
It is. It was kind of Post Malone like. I got a lot of different looks, like Eastbound and Down, a little bit of Riff Raff. Like all the kids were just throwing shade left and right. But it got pretty sunny when it came to the basketball court. I'll tell you that much.
All right, fair enough. So on the basketball court, what is your game like? I mean, can you take a player, either past or present, and tell me what's your game like?
Oh, what's my game like?
Like, you taking it to the rack, you passing the ball, you rebounding like Rodman, you just scoring from anywhere?
I really like to dribble. I used to be able to dribble a lot better than I can now, because I turned up, to grow a foot in 2 years, and I couldn't. My hands were further away from the floor. I mean, that's just kind of how life works. You grow and the ball gets further away from you. In more ways than one.
Right.
Or 2.
So what you're saying is your handle's a little loose. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But what my style is, I kind of dribble through, several people, let's say, and then I like to kick it out. I like to create for others. I don't know who that is, but not the handles like Kyrie, but I wish.
All right. So Bungie the creator. Fair enough. We can work with that.
Bungie.
We can work with that.
All right. We're talking way too much about my really
You can't just say,
overrated
"Oh, I had
basketball game.
cornrows," and then like we don't even talk about that. Like, come on now.
Oh, by the way,
I had to drop bombs. We got bombs today. We got a big old lineup tonight, J Mike. I mean, we've got our third co-host that comes in about every so often, every few weeks, and he's not wearing the green jacket tonight. Don't really appreciate that, but am very happy to have him. So, Jake, dude, what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I too have missed you guys. It's been too long since I've been on, and tonight is a great occasion to come back on and start up some football talk and shoot the jargon.
Shoot the jargon. Fair enough. that sounds like something.
That's the word that came to my head, and I don't know why.
Shoot the words.
You ever get stuck in sentences and you just start talking and you have no idea what you're saying, but I can't just stop talking.
it's like that
Shoot the
guy. It's like
jargon.
that realtor guy in that movie with Sarah Marshall guy. I don't remember who it is.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
In My Best Friend's Wedding. Yeah, with Forgetting Sarah Marshall, but it's like
Job, like saying Jobin likes.
Yeah. You know, you've seen that movie. What I'm
You,
talking
man.
about that I can't name right now because my brain's fried. But
from I Love You Man, when he's like,
Yeah, I
trying
Love
to
You
come up
Man.
with a
Yeah,
nickname
he's like-
for him. He's like,
yeah,
all right,
exactly.
speculated Jobin.
Yes.
All right, see you
Yes.
later, City Slicker.
See, yeah.
That's one of my favorite movies. It's fantastic.
Oh yes.
I love the awkwardness of that movie. That's
Now-
me in a nutshell.
Now, Jake, this is, I mean, as your Twitter handle suggests, I mean, this is your prime time of the year.
Oh,
How are you feeling?
I feel good. I mean, I would say before I had a wife and kids, I dove into the draft season much harder than I do now. But I still love it. The off season is my favorite time of year. Evaluating incoming rookies, even though I'm not a big college football fan, but this is the time where we start to dive into tape and start to figure out these prospects for our own. And then as I've noticed that I don't watch as much tape, I just lean on guys like Matt Waldman even more to kind of steer me in the right direction and correct my wrongs about film evaluation.
I was gonna say it'd be pretty neat if we could just get a guest to come on that just happened to watch a little bit of tape, just a smidge.
With that being said, Gabe, it's time to introduce
Okay.
our cleanup hitter here.
I'm trying to come up with a Jobin type nickname for you, Matt, but it's not coming through. So I'm just gonna have to call you Matt for now. We'll see what happens later. But Matt Waldman, man, I am very, very excited to have you on and welcome.
Hey, man, it's my pleasure. And I just have to drop this reference because as you're talking and talking about your basketball game, you know, and we talked about Jobin. Well, isn't that other guy's name Pete? So we could kind of do the it won't show it. It won't. There it is. There it is. Pete Maravich. There we go.
Yes. Yes. I see where just imagine Pistol Pete with some cornrows right now.
Right. So
It was
let's see if I can. But yeah, man, I'm glad to be on. This is fun already. This makes me feel like I'm at home. This is
that
great.
was a significantly better comp than I made. Like, thank you for bringing that.
I'm like Kyrie with no handle, but kind of handle.
I'm gonna delete that part, man.
I also
Eastbound
had to drop a guy who was the last time I got to watch basketball on a regular basis. So actually it was Dwayne Wade, but it feels like Pete Maravich was the last one I probably got to watch.
Man, that's hilarious.
Oh boy. Well, we'll probably talk a little bit about rookies.
Right.
I don't know. We'll find a few to talk about at least. I don't know.
I think it'd be great if we brought Matt on and didn't talk a lick of football.
I know it might not happen, Matt. Like you've probably been busy talking about actually football, but it literally might not happen.
Hey, I could use the break. That's all right with me. So.
All of his followers tune in and they're like,
They'll be
"What
like,
the hell is
what's
this?"
going on? I'll have to put a post up. If you just want to hang out with four guys who are having fun, and tune in. But if you want to hear me talk about football, you're SOL, my friend. You're SOL.
Sorry.
Well, hearing that this is Matt's fourth podcast of the night, I kind of just want to give him a break. Anyways, I'm gonna feel bad for every.
No, man, it's good. It's good. It's good. Once we had Bill. I had the Bill centric podcast, so it was more Bill centric type of stuff. So I mean, we're good. We're good.
So Matt, just because we actually do have people who watch and listen that are not as dynasty focused or even fantasy football focused, a lot of people just like to rock with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and your passions. Maybe even if you do any kind of underwater basket weaving, anything of that nature. Let us hear it.
Sandwich.
Curling, that kind of thing. Yeah,
and definitely whatever your favorite sandwich is. We've got to know your sandwich take.
Okay, well, that's a good deal. Well, I'm a writer, a football writer at Football Guys, and I'm also the owner publisher of a publication called the Rookie Scouting Portfolio, which is a draft guide that I've been doing since 2006. It's my full-time job, and I study prospects at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. I got started doing that because I guess the try and sum up a long story, you could say that I was a wannabe musician back in the 1980s at the University of Miami who wanted to be a jazz musician, realized that I didn't have the talent of like the people that I knew who were probably going to end up doing that, who wound up being like major producers and players and things like that, and decided to go to the University of Georgia because it was the only school I could afford because I was from Georgia at the time, and the school was not nearly as good as it is now. So I ended up there. I wrote a little bit at their newspaper. I had a editor who basically worked at Sports Illustrated during the time that, when Larry Bird was at Indiana State and had that cover on Sports Illustrated where he's telling everybody to shush with a bunch of cheerleaders, next to him. He wrote that cover story about Larry, about that. And he also covered Herschel Walker at Georgia. He told me a lot of nice things about my writing that I wish I heard as a musician. So, of course, I promptly decided not to be a writer and ended up in a corporate industry that I kind of grew into a full-time job there for about 15 years. And I was managing operations for a company that had about 60 branches around the United States. And I learned all these different quality measures that helped me, develop monitoring processes for performance evaluation on various levels. And I decided one day, as a big fan of football, that I would try and apply that to evaluating football players at those positions because I was getting into fantasy football. And I started writing about fantasy football while I was doing other freelance writing work occasionally for that same guy who told me all those things that I liked to hear, but I was too afraid to do anything about. And ended up doing this book, and it's been about 15 years now. It's my full-time job, and it's a publication that rates players for both. It does two parts. It's got a pre-draft that's available April 1 of every year that kind of gives you the dynasty focus of who these players are, what they could possibly be. And it's about a 300-page guide that also then shows all the ridiculous work that I do on it that's on a downloadable level. And I probably will be doing away with that ridiculous work within a year or two in terms of showing all of that. But I did it because, I didn't play football on an organized level at any level that was, I would put on a resume, and I certainly didn't work in the league. And so I wanted people to understand what I was doing, how I was doing it to the letter. And, that's grown. And so then I have a post-draft guide along with that a week after the draft that kind of explores these players in terms of fit, where they match up with those teams, depth chart analysis, as well as ADP analysis versus my rankings. So when I tell you something way out there, like, Spencer Ware was my number 3 or 4 back in a given year, and everyone's like, are you kidding me? The guy's like not even going to get drafted. And I say, or Isaiah Crowell was my number 1 back in that given year. And I say, I know he's not going to get drafted. I know he's probably not going to be high on your list, but because I think he's one of the top backs, here's where I would draft him compared to where ADP is, so that you're not overspending, but you're also still looking at my rankings and getting something valuable out of it. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And it's become a thing that I guess fantasy owners like to use a lot. And I have a fair bit of media that like to buy it, as well as some folks in the league who use it as a cross-checking device. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I can't recommend that RSP enough. I've been subscriber for years, and it's helped me out hugely in my dynasty, even in my redraft leagues back in the day. And I remember getting Thomas Rawls and Crowell off of waivers, and I owe that to Matt. And every time I hear you talk about being a jazz musician, and especially that we talked about basketball early on here, that reminds me of that episode on The Office when Michael Scott gives the analogy between jazz music and basketball. Oh my god!
But I
thought you were gonna make the comparison that Stanley's handle in that episode is how.
Are
Gabe
you serious?
That's how Gabe dribbles, with his arm behind his back.
I don't know. I got taller. I can't dribble like I used to.
Oh my gosh, that is a great episode.
Man.
Yeah. All I know is that Dwight Schrute used to scare the living daylights out of me, and then the more that show went on, the more I loved him.
No, he's such a good character.
He is.
I thought the Jazz was going to go the jazz flute route. I was really
man. I played saxophone, so that means you have to double on woodwinds, and you had to double on the flute. But I could never quite play the flute. So the first instrument I got rid of when I stopped playing was that flute.
It's like, we're done here.
Yeah, we're done.
Well, can we start off with some hot fire? If you've got your Spencer Ware, Isaiah Crowell, Thomas Rawls type of player, can you drop that bomb for us right here on the open bar?
See, look at that. Well, I could probably drop some fire on a few things, but I think that type of player who I think is, probably underrated and may not get drafted, but I think could develop into something really strong is Richie James out of Middle Tennessee State. 5'9", 171. He's not, everyone wants to compare him to Steve Smith, and nobody's Steve Smith. Steve Smith is like, he's a mutant. So you can't really compare him, and he'll probably beat you up if you tried. So which I kind of admire about him, but yeah, he's a guy that can go up and win the ball in the air the way Smith does. He's not quite as physical, but he can take a physical pounding. Despite his size, he's very good after the catch. He got great vision. His routes aren't as complete for an outside receiver, but he's very good as an inside guy. He's someone that I think could wind up making his way onto a roster and being that spark plug who winds up catching a lot more passes than you'd expect and being a PPR dynamo that you get, as an undrafted, free agent.
Now we can't get too crazy here because I've got a game coming up, Matt, and you don't know about this. The guys don't necessarily know what the game is either. So we're not going to get too deep into your takes on everyone just yet, because I think that we're going to have a lot of fun with that here shortly.
Sweet.
With that being said, shout out to everyone that's in the live chat with us. A lot of the folks that show us love. Shane from DFF, what up, Shane? We've got Jonathan Smith in here. We've got Casey, the first lady of the open bars, in here. And also looks like we've got Zach, the Dynasty Dummies. He's in the building as well. So real quick, Shane, one of the first question in here, Shane says that, Matt, he needs your definitive truth about wide receiver James Washington. How is he supposed to feel about the hype train that has been the gun show, Guns Mahoney, Dez Bryant mixed with Justin Blackman hype train that everyone seems to be piling on?
Well, it's interesting because I like James Washington an awful lot. And if he shows what I think he'll show at the combine, there will still be people who nitpick his top end speed to some degree, because I think anybody who they want as a top wide receiver has got to run like a 4.3 40, which is just silly. If you run anywhere between a 4.5 and a 4.6, but you've got great speed in terms of acceleration off the line, that first 10 to 15 yards, your 20-yard shuttle, your 3-cone drill, if those are strong and he runs like a high 4.5, I don't care. He will be one of the top receivers in this class. He understands one of the things you don't see at Oklahoma State very often is that he doesn't face a lot of press coverage. Most guys know that he wins so often, deep, that they play off coverage on him. So you don't get to see him win in that press environment. But the Senior Bowl, he had so many different release moves. And if you look hard enough on his tape and do what I do, because, here's my RSP cocoon chair right here that I had to break out because Herman Diddler wasn't quite doing the trick for me. Last night, my legs were like singing singing like a choir basically when I was able to put them up for a little bit. And it's sad to say, but I'm watching a ton of tape on him, and you can find that his releases are varied and effective in ways that don't normally see from a young receiver at this stage of his career. So I like him. I think he's smooth. I think he's technically sound. He's terrific at tracking the ball. And I'm just looking to see what his 40 time is, because I looked up his track times and saw that he ran the 100 at a personal best 10.81. And I'll give a shout out to my wife, because she ran a 10.78 when she was in high school.
Dang.
Now that's a deep threat. But could she stack DBs, man?
Man, I think she could. Honestly, I think that she'd probably get kicked out of games for clotheslining them, probably. But yeah, she ran a personal best 10.78 once. So I like to joke around about that, because her coaches were like, "You're a horrible starter, and you smoke a cigarette before the meet, and you're short." And all these gazelles are out there, and they look at you and start laughing, and then like all they see is your tailwind, basically.
Tail lights.
Exactly. I raced her once when we were in our 30s when we first met, just because I was goading her. I was by no means ever fast, but it was fun just to see. And it was like watching a video game, like just hitting the A button, man. It was crazy.
That 10.7's no joke.
No,
that
so
but is no joke.
No, that's no. I think it was. I want to say it was Jackie Joyner or it was Evelyn Ashford who won the IAAFF in Germany with a 10.78 a year after she ran that. So it makes me laugh. But yeah, to me that's probably around a 4.4, 4.5 40. So I'm thinking that if James Washington runs like he does in his runs in his 100 times back in school, he's probably going to be somewhere in the high 4.5s at worst. So I'm anticipating. I'm kind of anticipating that event.
So we're comping James Washington to your wife at this point.
Yeah. Except that he probably, though he knows Taekwondo, but she probably fights dirtier. So.
For you millennials who are sitting there like, Jackie Joyner, who's that? Google something and you'll learn you something. You're gonna learn today.
Google Pete Maravich while you're at it too.
Yeah, Pete Maravich also, yes.
See, I love being the old man in the room where I can throw out all these dated references, and just make, I'm surprised you still have viewers at this point.
You mean had viewers at this point?
Sorry. Yes.
Those are some great points there, Matt. What I like about James Washington is he's arguably one of, if not the best deep threat in this draft class. But he also has extremely strong hands and can high point the ball a little bit. And I heard Marcus Mosher. Is it Mosher or Mosher?
Yeah.
Mosher.
I think it's Mosher.
His comp was he runs a Will Fuller but with hands.
Yeah, that's an interesting take with that. I mean, I can see how that would fit. I don't have a take from just yet. I've heard Chris Chambers as one that was fascinating to me. Emory Hunt, who I value his opinion a lot. He talked about Chris Chambers, and he probably might come in that 5'10", 5'11" range instead of 6 feet. So I don't remember what he measured at the Senior Bowl. I should look at that and see what that is, but I always just wait till the combine.
He had really long arms and big hands, I believe, right? 34-inch arms and almost 10-inch hands, I think.
Yeah, and he's got that reach for sure. He uses it very well, but it's just his ability really to stack defenders. When you can get that separation and have the awareness and the willingness to just cut that guy off. I don't care what you run in the last 20 meters of that 40-yard dash, because if you can get on top of him fast enough that you can do that, you can control the pace. You could just slow down and wait for the ball to come, you know, at that point if you need to, and you're just going to force interference penalties. So he, you know, if he's going to disappoint at the combine, it would be because his first 20 yards, you know, are slow, like slower than average. If that happens, and there is talk from some people saying that he has good finishing speed, but he doesn't have good early speed. And if that's the case, then that's going to be fascinating to me, because even at the Senior Bowl, he was beating people left and right on short and intermediate routes because of his ability to win technically. But you know,
it's not all. Yeah, it's not all about the metrics when gaining separation. There's other ways to create space, and you can do that by stacking receivers and having good awareness on the field as well.
Yeah, he's going to be the cloudiest receiver probably after the combine, I have a feeling, in terms of how people see him.
So you're saying that I have to step off of Cortland Sutton as my number 1 wide receiver a little bit because of this James Washington dude? That.
Yeah, and I'm probably gonna harsh your buzz a little bit about Cortland Sutton a little bit here, because it took a little while for him to grow on me. And part of the issue was, when you catch the football, you need to use good hand position based on where the target is. Otherwise, at the NFL, with tighter coverage, with harder throws, you end up in situations where you can invite the ball into your body, or create situations where you're dealing with contact. And if your hands aren't in a good spot to begin with, it makes the catch even more difficult. So I often talk about hand position as you got that diamond position where you've got your hands kind of in a diamond on high throws above the waist, and you can control in terms of being able to use that. And you're trying to attack the point of the ball, and your fingers kind of act as like little shock absorbers for the spin of the ball. And it's better to have, you know, 8 to 10 different digits trying to control the rate of that ball, the wonders of human engineering, as opposed to it hitting the broadside of the barn on your palms and recoiling off at a really hard rate. And Brandon and, you know, Cortland Sutton, what ends up happening with him, I was going to have the Freudian slip of Brandon Marshall there, but Cortland Sutton was, and when I get really tired, I start doing former NBA players conflating their names together. But David Best was Travis Best for me. Like in my book, Gene Bramwell used to say, "No, dude, this isn't Georgia Tech in the 1980s." But with Cortland Sutton, oftentimes he'll try and catch the ball clapping it together. Think of like your kid before they were the age of, you know, 6 or 7, learning how to catch, and they clap it, and the ball spins right past that and ends up hitting them in the chest or going through his grip because he doesn't have that hand position. Now, is that something that can be overcome? Absolutely. Quincy Enunwa, the Jets, man, some of his hand position, I literally saw him try and catch a ball like this one time. I mean, I kid you not. At Nebraska, I saw him go up for a ball like that and was thinking, what in the world? But he worked on a jugs machine relentlessly during his first year with the Jets, and he credited that, said that he got much better because he was focusing on using the correct techniques. And Sutton, unfortunately, his hands either get too far apart or he tries to clap on the ball and he drops a ridiculous amount of passes, more than he should based on the situation, or he double catches a lot of balls that may wind up drops for him. And then there's a guy over on Twitter who his name is Brad Kelly, who I would recommend anyone who's listening to this following, because he's a wide receiver coach at a high school, but he does a wonderful job of breaking down film and especially at that position. And last night he was talking about something that I haven't really mentioned much of, but I definitely see it. And it's not big for fantasy owners, but it's his blocking. And they talk about the lack of effort as a blocker. And I see a lot of lack of effort in his play sometimes with certain routes and certain blocking. It's not that you shouldn't take plays off and all that kind of thing. Let's not go Randy Moss on this, but it's just, there's a level of intensity that isn't always there. And it's even not always there on plays that I would like to see. When I see him on, he looks like a guy that you'll go, oh, he could be a Brandon Marshall type threat for you. And I think he's worthwhile to draft and hope that he develops into that. But in games where he wasn't quite on, I kind of scratching my head with that. He's a guy that's going to drop a lot of passes in the NFL, but he will also probably catch enough that that you'll be happy with him and look back at it and go, well, he was a top receiver. Yeah, it's just the risks are a little higher.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's always frustrating when you see a 6'4", 220-pound wide receiver with all the skills and talent you would think he'd have. And what drives me crazy is when those guys go up to high point a ball and they just jump and let the ball come into their waist. It's a very frustrating thing, because if he could high point and, like you said, catch it like a diamond, he'd be a completely different player.
Yeah. And a lot of these young guys do that also. They don't understand how to use their hands on high pointing, and they try and use this underhand technique where they're up in the air like this. You're like, you have nowhere else to go. Like, you understand your hands have nowhere else to go here. You're not going to be, and you're just going to, what you're going to be doing is like bailing it like water. The ball is going to be bailed like water over your head, trying to bring this in over the guy, unless you've got like huge mitts to clasp onto it. And some of them do, but you just have more control side to side with your hands, over in that fashion. So it's, these guys have a lot to learn, and we have to remember that, when they get into the league, if they seek out the help of veterans and some position coaches and consultants who've played in the league, who coach, they can really learn a lot at that level. In college, oftentimes, unless they're at a few programs, and I can't even tell you which what programs they really are, because most programs say, oh, you're big, oh, you're tall, oh, you're fast, you're going to win as an athlete, and then whatever skills they acquire, that's great. But it's like, drop the music reference, when it comes to football and being coached up, you're going to see these drills at the Senior Bowl and these drills in practices, and they last, 20 minutes, and they're like, each guy gets like 4 reps. Are you really going to learn 4 reps? If you've ever played a musical instrument, that like if you were in school and played in band, you play in band and they warm up, and it's going to be, okay, we're going to play some scales, so you play some scales, you all play together to see if you can play in tune. And that takes about 5, 10, 15 minutes at most. And then you're off to rehearsing whatever it is that you're rehearsing. If you're going to get better at knowing your instrument and knowing the whole range of it, trust me, you're going to practice scales for hours and hours and all sorts of varieties. I remember being tested on scales that was like having to play like 164 varieties of different scales for a test that took hours to learn.
That's disgusting, first of all.
Yeah, it is. It is.
164. That's just gross.
It is. It is gross. And
it's the less exciting stuff. I mean, it's the things that you need a foundation of to be able to be great and not have to think about those things, whether you're playing band or football, whatever. I mean,
that's right. And you're not going to learn that in 5 minutes of practice every day, where you're going to have to take that and go, okay, well, I'm going to spend an hour or 2 on this a week outside of practice to get better at it. And a lot of those young guys don't get that.
Now, staying in this lane before we get into some more fun here, Matt. Also in the chat, I'm going to combine a couple of questions together. One this is from Jonathan Smith and Zach, again from the Dynasty Dummies, and basically we've heard a lot about this wide receiver class coming in being subpar by many accounts. One, do you think that this class is as bad as many people think it is? And 2, with that being said, we've highlighted a couple of the guys that people like a lot. A lot of guys that's kind of going under the radar per se is Auden Tate. Is he real deal, or what have you seen from him so far? So what's this wide receiver class like, and what is Auden Tate, I guess, in this class?
Yeah, this class is getting the shaft because last year the class wasn't all that strong in terms of highlight names. Like everyone in football basically they think a good class is there's a Julio Jones, Andre Johnson, AJ Green, Odell Beckham type of player around every corner. And last year's class was actually quite good. It just was filled with a lot of secondary guys and slot guys who could be high volume for you, but aren't the marquee athletes that are going to highlight your team on that level. And this class is kind of similar in that regard. There's probably more guys who have promised to maybe develop into approximations of those types of marquee players, and Auden Tate is certainly one of them, and I'll talk about him in a sec. but it's a class filled with a lot of secondary guys or vertical threats or players who will be probably your wide receiver 2 in fantasy leagues, or wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4 in fantasy leagues, who are starters on teams but aren't your top end guys. But one of those guys who could be the exception is Tate. He's strong. I think he catches the ball in traffic and winning the ball in the air as well as any receiver in this class, if not better. He's someone that, you know, understands how to use his body. You know, there was a joke, I think it was either Marcel Aitman or Alan Lazard at the Senior Bowl, where he tried to, I think it was Lazard, tried to use a release where he was like a 185-pound slot receiver. and the coach just screamed at him like, come on, man, you're a big guy. Play like a big guy, you know? And of course, I'm sure, you know, I have to think that some of these guys are still learning at the point that they don't understand the technical details of how to do that just yet. But he happened to do so and played better. But I think that Tate's a guy, you don't have to say to him, play like you're 6'5", 225 pounds. You know, and he also has enough quickness that he just was injured enough and played on a team with, you know, Dalvin Cook. So, you know, when you look at it, and a quarterback that was okay, but nothing great by, you know, NFL prospect standards, nothing that you would write home about. So when you look at it from that standpoint, you know, his production isn't going to get him the marquee mention, but his game is good enough that he deserves to be in your top 5, I think.
Yeah, another Mosier point here. I was listening to him on Roto Underworld today, and he was absolutely destroying Tate about he thinks he's lumbering. And I honestly, I think he's relatively fast for his size, and I think he has some agility in the open field. And I was surprised that Marcus was so down on him and expects him to run, you know, worse than maybe Treadwell did a couple years ago.
Well, it might happen. And if it does, then, you know, that'll be something that I'll have to certainly take a look at. But if he's quick enough, then I'm not really worried about the long speed. And to be honest with you, I know that people are like down on Treadwell, and they look, and they want to look for the magic reason, you know, and usually the magic reason is sometimes the stat or a data point that they can latch onto. And with him, they think the data point is lack of long speed. But I think that when you look at his game, I've watched him enough this year in just small moments where he flashes the game that was there. And if you know, he gets a shot to demonstrate, if he demonstrates that he's playing consistently, I think for him, it was really just getting acclimated to the level of the play. But there's moments that you watch him and you go, okay, that's the first round player that the Vikings drafted and why they drafted him there. And I think that he's still a patience play and a nice real buy low, like super, you know, big lots type of price type of thing that you're going to get out of him. And I
big
think,
lots.
Yeah.
And
big
he's still 23 years old. He came into the league young.
So young.
And he faced a lot of adversity his rookie season too. He lost Teddy after he'd gone through the whole offseason with. They brought in Sam Bradford. Norv Turner's playbook is so difficult to learn as a rookie. He doesn't make anything easier. I think his confidence got shot a little bit. And then Adam Thielen decided to turn into an absolute superstar, and you got Diggs there. And you have a low volume passing offense. I mean, I don't think it's on Laquan. We saw that catch against Green Bay this year. That was the Laquan we saw in college.
I think I still have that on Instagram.
Yeah, you watch for him in his second contract. I think if he gets a shot, or you know, just he needs to get some targets. He only got he had 20 catches this year, which was an improvement from his rookie season, but he needs some volume and he needs to get some playing time.
Yeah, it's not like he was dropping passes left and right and running the wrong routes all over the place. You know, I mean, he's going to make mistakes, but I agree with you 100%. And an Auden Tate, I'm not really that concerned about because, you know, I mean, at the same time, some of these bigger guys, I mean, even big Mike Williams back in the day, who I really liked out of USC, when he was in shape and that year in Seattle, you could see when he was in shape, he was fine, and I think he's the lumbering idea of what, what Marcus was probably scaring people about. And even at that, if you can catch the ball, box out, and you're quick enough, you're going to be fine. And I think Audentate's that type of player at worst. He
can't be a worse athlete than Kelvin Benjamin, and we've seen Kelvin Benjamin win in certain ways on the field. He's a decent player. So I don't see. Yeah. I think Audentate is a better version of Kelvin Benjamin.
That's a fantastic point, and I couldn't agree more with that.
You got a game here, J. Mike?
I do. I want to make sure you guys need to fire off any other shots before we jump into this.
You're busting my buttons, Matt.
Let's dive in the deep.
But I do have my favorite sandwich.
Yeah.
It is
full circle.
It is the eggplant parm right here.
Sit down, Peyton.
So there we go.
We need to get Matt a new commercial right now.
Let's hear Where's my eggplant parmesan? I like it. I see it already. We're doing things here. Big things. Hashtag, shout out to the gut feels guys. We're hashtag doing things right now.
Squashing the competition, really.
So, all right. So, this is Matt. Obviously, we've never played this game before. I just kind of thought of it today on the show sheet that you never received, and I never sent to anyone because it didn't get created. So what we're doing is this. Each of you will take a position, okay, between quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. And just real quick, Matt, how many dynasty leagues are you in?
About 8.
8. Good stuff. Are you super flex or no super flex? What do you prefer?
I prefer no super flex, but I'm in probably half of them are. No, okay. 2 of them are. 2 of them are super flex. Yes.
Good stuff. All right, here we go. So this is what's going to happen. You can either choose, and I'll tell you the name of the game here in a minute, but first you have to actually choose a position. Do you want, and again, this is going to be in regards to the upcoming NFL prospects, quarterbacks, running backs, or wide receivers? What would you like, Matt?
I'd like running backs.
You want running backs. Jake, since you get next choice. Gabe, your last. Sorry.
I really wanted running backs. I'll do quarterbacks, I guess.
All right. So that means wide receivers for you, Gabe.
I'll take that.
Can't take that.
Wide receivers are get off the call now.
I love saying Tony Fumagalli.
How about Goddard?
Or
Goddard? What is
Goat?
Waiting for
Goddard.
Good deal. Goddard. So this game, it can be called 2 things. We can choose. It's either called not named Saquon, or it can be called Dynasty Senior Superlatives.
Like it.
I like Dynasty Senior Superlatives better.
I like that too.
Okay, so obviously you can't choose Saquon Barkley.
Good.
He is off limits from this game.
Good.
And as I go through this list, you're going to try not to use the same person to win the same thing twice.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you something like, I don't know, best all around. You can give me the name of your person, and then a quick sentence about why you think that, or just the name, and we'll keep it moving.
How about this? Can I throw a wrench in this real quick?
I love it. Do
All
it.
right. I'd like to make a trade, and I'll take quarterbacks. I'll take quarterbacks for the running backs.
Fair enough.
I'll do that. Okay.
Matt is much better at quarterback evaluator than I am, so that works out.
I'm just getting started to do my final rounds of running backs, so I've got.
I know you've done
on the brain.
I know you've done a ton of QB and wide receiver talk, so I wanted to get some running back talk into you with you tonight.
And Gabe is still screwed with the wide receivers. So
yeah, can I? I might just get franchise tag. I don't really have an option.
I hope you've got DLF pulled up or something to NFL Combine list or something up. All right, here we go. So first Dynasty Senior Superlative. Most likely to be the player that you own in every single league. Ooh. So, Matt, quarterback for you.
Lamar Jackson, because when I look at his game, I think he's going to wind up on a team that has some sense and that won't need to start him right away. And if they do, they won't have crazy expectations about him. And number 3, the expectations they have long-term are crazy good because he understands how to play from the pocket, unlike what people say because they watched his freshman tape or his sophomore tape, or he doesn't quite fit the prototypes of what people look for physically out of a quarterback. And as a result, they can end up nitpicking the heck out of him, just like they did with Teddy Bridgewater, just like they do with, a variety of players. So when I look at Lamar Jackson, he's honestly, there's Josh Rosen probably going to be in my rankings about here. And Lamar Jackson is like basically pushing up on Josh Rosen pretty hard. And then there's a little bit of a gap, and there's Sam Darnold, who I really like, but Lamar Jackson will most likely be in my leagues.
Now
he'll probably be the cheapest. Yeah. Well, I guess I don't know if he'd be the cheapest, but
he might
of
those 3.
About quarterbacks,
of those 3, yeah, you're right.
I think he would have been until Matt Waldman just got the hype train started.
Yes,
started and pushed down the tracks because shout out to Bruce Mattson. He was on our show earlier in the season, and we were just laughing about the fact that the Lamar Jackson hype train was going to be starting soon. And I'm trying to keep everybody quiet because I want to get to the drafts, and I just want to be able to pick him up wherever, whenever. But yeah,
what do I know? I like Jared Goff. Oh, well, that worked out.
But he played in 7 games and sucked as a rookie. What do you mean?
Right.
You like Jared Goff?
There you go.
All right, moving on. What do you got, Jake? Running back here.
Well, I don't think you want to go super obvious here, and obviously I'm not going to be in a position to take a guy like Geis in all of my leagues. So I was looking at maybe somebody later. I've always been an Akram Wadley guy, and I know his weight was a big issue, and he's not an extremely physical running back. And Matt kind of put me in my place a couple weeks ago when I said he runs beyond his pads really well, or I didn't say that, but that's where he corrected me, saying, yeah, he kind of runs beyond his pads well, but he's not a great interior rusher. But I think he's a guy that's extremely elusive. I think he's one of the best running backs in space in this class and a great receiver. I just got him in our latest DLF mock. I got him in the 4th round, and if I can get Wadley in the 4th round as a pass catching option, I'll be taking him all day long in the 4th round.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all.
Gabe, wide receiver, most likely to be the player you have in every single league.
I think right now, just as far as what I've seen kind of through some early mocks, and this will likely completely change, but just a dude that I've seen fall that I'd be interested in if I could, like early 2nd round, mid 2nd round, if it happens, I'd love it, is ESB. So I think it's a free card there to play, especially if you get him in the 2nd round, just the upside that he has and just how athletic he is. Be nice if he could, I don't know. I guess he's all right at his weight. What is he at, like 200, 205 or something?
He's very lean for 6'4".
Yeah.
He could put on some mass for sure.
For sure. So if that happens, I think that he's going to have a very athletic day at the combine, which kind of makes me think that he won't fall to the 2nd round after that. But that's where I've seen him kind of land lately, and that I'd love that. So ESBs for me.
Very good. Very good. Next topic, or next superlative here. Most likely to succeed in a bad situation. Jake, we'll start with you this time. Most likely to succeed in a bad situation. So no matter where they land, you think they can still do work?
Probably have to go Sony Michel here. He's just such a well-rounded back, and he's probably at least one of the best pass pro running backs in this class. He can pass protect, which is a huge asset for any team. So he's going to get on the field. He can catch passes. He can run inside. I think he's being maybe a hair overvalued. I think he's getting close to being locked in that 103. And I'm a big Nick Chubb fan, and that hurts a little bit. I don't know if I can swallow that quite yet. But if you're going to talk about somebody that's going to go to a difficult situation and at least have a safe floor, I like Michelle to be that player.
Real quick, sidebar, and then we'll jump right back into it. Gabe, Jake, Matt, 1-word answer. Chubb or Michelle? Not everyone at once.
Who's first?
I just figured I knew what Matt was going to say, but
I think
I'll give my answer. Chubb.
yeah,
that's where I'm leaning. The only part is the pass catching thing. I don't, if Chubb can catch passes, at least put in 20, 30 receptions. If he can do that, then absolutely Chubb.
Gabe. Chubb or Michelle, and then give us your player most likely to succeed in a bad situation.
Chubb.
Oh, is
Riley,
is Riley listening to this podcast right now? He has Chubb ranked as his RB8.
They're all going to think we're nuts, so that's okay.
He's way too distinguished.
Okay.
I just think he's cheaper than Michelle too. So a lot
There
of
you go.
around
I
Michelle
like
right
it.
now.
Riley's in college. He can't even come to the open bar. I'm pretty sure he's not even old enough.
Not allowed.
Shout out to Riley.
Riley does fantastic work, and I love him. But when he said that, I literally fell off my seat. So I always have to bust his balls about that.
Well,
a lot of people are going to have him that low too, because they're going to be worried about the injury, and they forgot, and they may not have watched that freshman tape.
Oh my God!
Early sophomore tape.
Oh my God! He was so special.
Mm-hmm.
He may have been, if he would have stayed healthy, he may be the 101 in this class.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. I
He's
think
he's a better runner than Barkley is, just natural running back.
Yes. Yeah.
And
he gets used to those knees again,
I think he would have been the athlete that Barkley was.
Listen, this is the thing that people don't realize either, is that, think about it this way. Sony Michel was the 5-star prospect coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Chubb was squatting 600 pounds in high school. Derrick Henry was on YouTube as a sensation, squatting less weight than what Chubb was squatting post-injury after tearing three ligaments that were not his ACL, which my buddy Gene Bramwell, when I told him that, he didn't believe me. He thought I was mistaken. So then we had to go look through everything for him to go, wow, that actually happened that way? That is really rare. And he recovered sufficiently enough to do that. And he came back at North Carolina and 32 times for over 200 yards and outran a cornerback's angle for over 50 yards at the end of the game. And he did this his first time back, 9 months removed from an injury. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he did that. But, as Mark Rick said, when he recruited those guys, and after Chubb had a season as a freshman, that Leonard Fournette said, Nick Chubb outplayed me, our freshman's years. Said that in the media. Rick said, Nick Chubb's our Heisman candidate. Sony Michel might be our best offensive player. So, of course, when you're in that situation, what are you going to do? You're going to let Sony Michel catch passes, and you're going to let him, if he's a little better pass protector and a little better pass catcher, well, you're going to use him in that department. And then you're going to use Nick Chubb on the things that Nick Chubb does extremely well, which is run over people and be able to make good decisions behind the line of scrimmage. But that doesn't mean that those guys, the roles that they played, are because they're not good at the other things that the other one did.
Very good. Gabe, did you ever give us your most likely to succeed in a bad situation?
Most likely, I think I have to. I'm already like on the James Washington thing now. I feel like that's the easiest answer.
Very good.
Too prepared, too athletic, gonna blow people away. It's gonna be something else, I think.
Yeah, a lot of these wide receivers, they have to be in the right situation, and they have to be used appropriately for their skill set. Like James Washington's a guy that if he's not used properly, that could be an issue, along with a lot of these wide receivers in this class.
Yeah, not a huge fan of the class too. So I mean, for me to say someone that's most likely to succeed, especially like a wide receiver, where as of late, that doesn't seem to be true, but where rookie, sophomore wide receivers aren't all that successful. It's hard to say when you don't like the class as much.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say, Matt?
I'll say Sam Darnold out of USC. I mean, this is a guy that he can make plays off balance. He's often picked apart because of his bad footwork and that he has this wind-up motion, but he's someone that, while he's not always going to dance by the numbers in the pocket and find that third player in rhythm because his feet aren't there for him to access it, he can also make the big play avoiding pressure. And instead of hitting that third read, he goes back to that first read who's further down the field and throws a rocket there in stride and with touch. So I think he's a guy that while it would be nice for him to have a really good offensive line, he may not necessarily need it. He's tough. He's accurate on the move. He's accurate off balance. And he's kind of that guy that, as Trent Dilfer said when he was contrasting him and Josh Rosen, and he was praising Josh Rosen, even though there was lots of talk about what happened with those guys. But he said, Sam Darnold's a guy that every team's going to fall in love with. Every team's going to love him. He's a people pleaser. He's a nice guy. And I think that when you look at his game, it's probably the one that's, of the answers that I used, is probably the least dependent upon an offensive line. And probably also, gives you that element to go work in and outside the pocket.
Very good. All right, Gabe, we'll start with you this time. Are you ready?
Always. Stay ready.
Oh wait, did we get a running back most likely to succeed without
Michelle? Yeah, I said Michelle.
Michelle. Okay, cool.
Yep. Good deal. Here we go, Gabe. We got about 3 more, depending on how quick we can move through these. The wide receiver that you're least sure how you feel about.
Before or after talking to Matt Waldman.
The eye roll and the smack of the lips. That was just classic. No, girl.
All of them. Seriously though, before or after talking to
before, don't worry about me.
You choose.
God, you got me sweating about Cortland, man. I don't know. I'll take a guy a little further down to have a conversation about. Mostly because I just recently saw him in the Senior Bowl. Michael Gallup. I liked a lot of what he did in his senior season, but separated pretty well, ran decent routes. And then I can't just put it on a Senior Bowl, but I wanted to see more, I guess. And I always try to peek at the seniors because I feel like they have a chance to shine and really put themselves in a position to immediately make an impact because they're kind of the older bunch in, your year-to-year prospect crew. So Michael Gallup for me just kind of bummed me out as of late. We'll see how he turns out.
Matt, over to you.
Mason Rudolph out of Oklahoma State, because the dude has great accuracy in the deep game, but even when he's got everything the way he needs to have lined up technically, he's not always as accurate in the short and intermediate game. And when I look at him, he's one of those guys that kind of it's one of those WTF moments when I watch him sometimes. It's just sometimes I'm thinking, wow, he's really good. And other moments I'm thinking, oh, it's not quite there yet. And so he's kind of all over the place for me. And I'm not sure how I feel about him as either a future starter who might even have franchise ability, or is he one of those backups in training who got picked rather high?
You talk a lot about the disaster gene with I know with people talking about having that with Josh Rosen. Is it possible that Mason Rudolph has a sleeper cell disaster gene in him, just lying dormant? Is it possible?
That's very possible. I think the disaster gene certainly is one of those things that can be activated by environment.
Gosh. Mason, I'm sorry. It is written. Oh.
I don't know if it'll happen. I mean, but it could happen. It could be activated by environment. So hopefully he doesn't wind up in an environment where it's activated,
I just picture him going to Buffalo and I just cry myself to sleep at night. Oh man, just sad. All right, Jake, running back, you're least sure how you feel about.
I think he's relatively a polarizing prospect, but I'm not going to go with the most polarizing running back, which would have been Balaj. But I'll go with Kerryon Johnson. I've watched a good amount of his tape, and I love his patience. I love his physicality. I think he's an underrated pass catcher. I think he's a willing pass protector. He runs high, and his strides are so long. I I think I'm going to be in a position later in late round 1 or rookie drafts where I'm going to be considering him, and I need to do a deeper dive. But I'm not sure if I love him or if I'm underwhelmed with him. And I'd really like to hear Matt's thoughts on Kerryon Johnson.
I liked Kerryon Johnson from what I've seen thus far. And if I were to publish the RSP today, which would be a mess, but if I did, Kerryon Johnson would probably be in my top 10 backs. I certainly liked what I saw from him in terms of power. He had pretty good balance. And I liked the way that he could accelerate. He had decent acceleration. It wasn't great, but it was decent. And his vision was fairly strong. So he's someone that, when I look at him, I could see him working out reasonably well for a team. And to me, it's while production is very helpful at certain points, it's not necessarily something that you have to lean on unless you're just playing the odds. If you're playing the odds, then you look at him and say, well, he only had one, really strong year.
Yeah, he reminded me of Jamal Williams a little bit from last year.
Okay. Yeah, I can see how that is. I can definitely see that.
And then Travis May said he reminds me of a combination of Jamal Williams and Le'Veon Bell. And I saw a little bit of that with the patience portion of his game.
Yeah. Yeah, I can get in that.
All right, Matt, this one's back to you. A couple more here. This is going to be fun. Most likely to save Hugh Jackson's job.
Well, ain't that something? The most let's see, the most likely to save Hugh Jackson's job. I'm going to say this, and I'm glad I didn't use him yet, because then I would have had to figure out a way to make this up. But I would say it's going to be Josh Rosen, because Josh Rosen doesn't put up with anything when it comes to not getting what he wants with the coaching staff and really it's not so much Josh Rosen, but it's going to be Todd Haley, because Todd Haley is a guy who his philosophy is to somewhat adjust to what the pieces are in the offense, as opposed to trying to make them adjust to him, that North Turner guy. So, but Rosen is someone who is kind of a straight shooter. He says what's on his mind, and that kind of drove some coaches out of UCLA early on, I hear, and he probably wasn't mature in how he said it all the time. But it strikes me that I get the feeling that if Josh Rosen and Todd Haley got matched up, that those are the type of guys that after a bad game or something weird happens, Rosen comes into Haley's office and is going to be allowed to basically rip Haley a new one, and Haley's going to be allowed to rip Rosen a new one, and they'll both emerge from that meeting better off and not hating each other. It's just going to be it's just business. It's okay. I like working with him because I can tell him what I think, even if it's unfiltered. And I think that Rosen is technically sound enough, and he is a conceptually smart enough player that with a Browns team that has a decent offensive line, has some really good potential at wide receiver and tight end, that he could wind up thriving there. And the coaching staff, to me, is the reason they brought in Todd Haley, honestly, is to say, you need some help, Hugh, to not run everything, and you need to focus on being the head coach, which maybe means not throwing other people under the bus and doing your job and not trying to focus on anybody else's. And if that doesn't work, well, Todd Haley could be a coach for us, and we can, run him out the way. But, I joked around the other night, there was a meme that Mark Schofield had on where I guess somebody was trying to rob a store, and he and his buddy were trying to throw bricks at the window, and the guy threw the brick and hit his first friend. The person stepped in the way, and he said to make a caption of that. And mine was, Jim Haslam's and John Dorsey saying, Hugh, go ahead and do what you need to do. We got Todd Haley right behind you. He's going to have your back, and it's so to me, if it works out, Todd Haley's a great coordinator, will be a great coordinator for them. And then, they grow from there with a guy like Rosen, who I think fits what they could do in Cleveland.
Yeah, when Rosen is playing well, he's one of the most fun quarterbacks I've watched that I can remember, and I think he's extremely pro ready. When he goes through his progressions, when he utilizes the short and the intermediate parts of the field. And I loved your analogy with, I think it was with Elliot Christ, about, when he tries to get into those boxing matches and doesn't play within his own confines, that's when he struggles. But when he does play within himself, I really enjoyed the tape that I've seen so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the thing. He just tries too hard to be sometimes something he's not at the end of games. And he's trying a little too hard to be a hero in a way where it's almost like he sees Sam Darnold across town, and he's like, I could do that. I could be that guy who makes those crazy throws and throws it across the field and does that. And he's got a good arm, but he's like, I want to land those knockout blows like that, and then he starts thinking that he has to do that rather than be the cerebral guy he is who wins on points. And I think that as long as he can have someone say, like Todd Haley, who I know he told Dwayne Bowe exactly what Dwayne Bowe needed to be, and Bowe did that for a year. If he can look at Rosen in the eye and say, look, kid, you're smart as can be, but if you keep doing that, I'm going to bench you, and you're never going to see the light of day here, and you need to figure this out, and you need to calm down. And they don't even need to say it that way, but get the point across. And I think Rosen will respond well to that.
Very good. Jake, running back.
Oh, since we didn't go with the other title of the show, can I now use Saquon?
No, you may not.
I can't.
No, you may not. Say somebody traded up. Somebody took Saquon at 3. They just frozen at 1 overall. You need to run back here.
No. So Saquon would have been such a good answer here.
You don't say.
It was me who traded up.
Revenge.
Can we go to Gabe for this question?
Sure, Gabe.
Real quick.
I hope the Browns don't take another wide receiver, but at least
Josh Gordon, Corey Coleman.
At least not for a few rounds. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's gonna like. They've said not the greatest things about Corey Coleman, it seems, and Josh Gordon fiasco. I don't know, and they're interested in re-signing Terrell Pryor, and I don't know.
Could you imagine that being your top 4 receivers
that are definitely worthy of going? Not necessarily worthy. I don't think anyone's necessarily worthy at this point to go to the Browns, but I think that the Browns would definitely take them. Well, you know what? Let's say my boy, the new face of the Cleveland Browns is Courtland Sutton.
Ooh.
They need a guy opposite Corey Coleman, a big bodied dude. He's gonna fix his hand mechanics.
In the 4th round now.
They're gonna run 4 wide every game, all game after they re-sign Terrell Pryor and draft Courtland Sutton. Duke Johnson in the backfield, Gordon, Corey Coleman, Terrell Pryor, and Courtland Sutton 4 wide all day long.
Let's go 5 wide. Drop Rashard Higgins in there too.
Yes, let's go Browns. All right, Jake, come on.
All right. So the Browns are going to take either Rosen or Darnold at 1. Then at 4, they're going to take Bradley Chubb or maybe Minka Fitzgerald.
Ooh, I like where
this
is going.
Then in the 2nd round, they're going to take Darius Geis. And he's going to pair up with Duke Johnson. So Duke Johnson can be at least the primary pass catcher. Even though I thought, watching some tape on Geis, he catches the ball relatively naturally. I just don't think he was utilizing that offense that well. And I do have some concerns about a Geis, and I don't think he's a perfect running back prospect. But I think if you could have that bruising, physical running back like Geis, and you could have the pass-catching running back like Duke Johnson, they could do some damage behind a above-average offensive line. You get a quarterback in there. You got Josh Gordon back. Maybe Corey Coleman sneaks back in there, stays healthy. I think that offense could be rejuvenated, and that would certainly go a long ways in helping save Hugh Jackson's job.
I just picture them being paired up like on Joe Dirt when he's talking about his fists. And he's like, they both work and they don't take no feedback. What's up?
That's hilarious.
That'd be so good. All right, last one. And I'll let you guys have fun with this. Get as creative as you like. Most likely to be a match made in fantasy heaven. So you take a team, put the player on that team. Match made in fantasy heaven. I'll let you chew on it for a second while I wax eloquent about the player that's definitely going to be on all my teams, because none of you have mentioned him at this point. Mr. Ronald Jones, running back out of USC. I love his burst. I love his vision. The more that I've been able to watch of him, I love what I think that he can be, specifically if he's going to weigh in even at like 205. If he can just get to 205, I would be so happy. I think that he is going to be so incredibly special at the next level. And I'm definitely opining and trying to have him on every single fantasy team that I can. I'm head over heels about him. I think he'll be fantastic. So now that I was able to get that off my chest and spill the beans to all my league mates.
Thanks for stealing my guy, J. Mike. Appreciate that.
Yeah, just swoop it in.
I'm just going to go ahead and I can't talk about right now.
You can still talk.
Reevaluate.
He still has a team to go on. So whomever's ready, go ahead, go for it.
Just stole my thunder. No, go ahead. Let's get Gabe to go first.
I
love how you're so upset about this right now.
No, I'm really not. I don't even know if I was the way I was going to go, but I just had to go there.
Is this a new player that because you kind of I wasn't sure. It seemed like it was like your all-star kind of pick. And
no. You can choose somebody that you've already chosen. This can be any player that's coming out in the draft this year. If you could pick the perfect landing spot for him, that would be just fantasy goodness all over the place. Where would it be?
Where'd you say Rojo was going?
I didn't. I just said that was the player that I'm going to have in every league.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're just coming in to
because you guys hadn't brought him up yet. So I cannot go this entire episode and not bring up Ronald Jones. I'm sorry.
I knew you were going to get salty about that.
Yeah, I'm very salty about it. You've been dancing all around. I'm like, you turd. Like, what are you doing?
I honestly haven't watched enough Ronald Jones tape, and yeah, we'll see. I know Graham Barfield has some concerns about Ronald Jones, but I have to dive into his tape more.
He's not perfect. I just think he's fantastic. I think he's fantastic.
He's just damn close.
Let me think. Let me think of a guy that I'd want to. I always like the landing spot as far as like a pairing with kind of a veteran wide receiver that they can learn from a little bit. I always like that kind of thing. So I'm thinking of that.
Like the Randy Moss, Chris Carter thing.
Sure. Yeah.
Sure.
I've heard of him. Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall, or Devontae Adams and Jordy as of late. I mean, I don't know. I think just having a positive kind of success around you in terms of a wide receiver, it helps. And just a competition too, friendly competition to be the guy, to be the number one, to get that homie to leave town, hit free agency. You can be the guy. I'm still thinking.
I'll give you mine if you want.
With like to pair up with Fitz or something. And I know John Brown will never be the guy I want him to be. Unfortunately.
Don't we all feel that way?
Yeah. Let's go. Yeah, let's go with since I'll go with the guy I haven't said and that I kind of like and think that he could be ranked a bit higher because I'm not crazy about Calvin Ridley, but like Christian Kirk. I like Christian Kirk. for him to go and be in the Arizona Cardinals under a new regime, learn a little bit from one of the greats, Fitzgerald. I think that'd be good.
Somebody who's gaining so much, like it's like I don't even know what you call it. It's like a quiet storm, if you will. I feel like a lot of people are talking Christian Kirk of late.
I think it's only going to rise from here because I think he's going to kill interviews. I think he's going to test pretty damn well. And I agree with Matt. I've watched his RSP on Christian Kirk. He definitely has some clapping concerns, as Matt would say.
Trampoline hands.
His route running still needs some work, but I think the system he was in and the quarterbacks he played with his entire career did not allow much development there. And I think he's going to be a really good pro. And so I think his hype is only going to build throughout the rest of this pre-draft season.
So, all right, Matt or Jake, either of you can go ahead from here.
Go ahead, Matt.
All right. I'll say Lamar Jackson with the New Orleans Saints would be the perfect place because Drew Brees knows he's at the end of his career. He knows he is. And I think that he's a battler and he's a great, great, great quarterback. One of my favorite quarterbacks of the past 15, 20 years. But, you know, I heard somebody tell me that the Saints were kind of had their eye on Lamar Jackson. I don't know if that's true or if that's more, you know, anonymous BS type of stuff. But I heard that. And, you know, when you look at this offense and you look at the fact that Breeze had to be developed and took a couple of years to really go through that, I think Sean Payton looks at a guy like Jackson and says, you know what, we can sit him behind Drew Brees. We're a pretty strong team with a strong defense that can get a little stronger. Our offensive line is hellaciously good. And we have the pairings of a nice running game. And we have this young receiver who we'd really like to keep in town when his contract comes up, who likes to attach himself to quarterbacks like a remora eel attaches itself to a shark and wants to absorb everything. So I think that Lamar Jackson, being the type of player who apparently had that kind of work ethic to begin his career at Louisville, putting him in a situation where he doesn't have to be the guy right away, in a town that I think is going to be friendly to him on a level that I think from a football standpoint will have a warm reception. I think that could be a absolute perfect fit and would keep Sean Payton there for a while. And to me, that's what I want to see, because I think Sean Payton is the type of guy that kind of had an eye opening when he got suspended for a year and he got out coached in a peewee league, you know, basically with some schemes that, you know, he might look back and go, you know, kind of like Andy Reid embracing a lot of this college stuff, you know, maybe he'll embrace more and more of that stuff, different things of what makes Lamar good. And Lamar can play in that offense. That's not to say Lamar can't, because he really very much can, as well as anyone, once he develops into that type of player. But giving him that kind of mentor, the kind of mentor who's not trying to be Tom Brady, who's trying to be 50 and get the equivalent of plastic surgery to keep looking good, you know, and then looking like a clown by the end of their career. You know, he's not going to, and I hope he doesn't end up looking that way, but it just seems like he's one of those guys. And I don't have any issue with champions who have that much fight in them that they look ugly at the end, because endings are never pretty no matter what they tell you on TV. So you got to admire someone who's going to fight to the end like that. But I think Breeze also is someone that has a little bit more maturity and perspective than Brady, and is going to look at this and go, I can really help this team be great. I can help this team transition. And, you know, I'm not going to like it when my time comes, and I'm probably never going to be ready, but I want this guy to be ready, and I'll be able to help him out.
Man, hopefully dreams come true.
There literally couldn't be a better fit for Lamar, I don't think.
That'd be fun.
Sick.
Because, you know, he
on that
could
turf.
And he could really use some time to sit. And that's a situation where he's not going to be pressured to be thrown in there. So either way, even if it's not New Orleans, he's probably looking to go in the latter half of the first round. He could end up on a nice team that doesn't need a quarterback right now.
And Jake, that's, as we talked about probably a few months ago at this point now, that's almost, well, no, that's probably as fun of a future as that Chiefs that we were kind of salivating what could be with Mahomes, Hunt, Hill, Kelsey. Like, oh my gosh, Mike T, Kamara,
and speak of that, I'll add this because I got to throw in a Chad Kelly reference whenever I can because I loved Mahomes, but Kelly was my number 2. I want Kirk Cousins badly to go to Denver because that means they won't draft a quarterback and won't have the investment in a high round guy. And it means that they'll have a guy that plays just well enough to help that team. But when it comes time, if Kelly shows enough, that they won't feel too bad about letting Kirk Cousins be the backup or letting him go down the line. And from what I heard, what I heard is that, I was told by a scout that the only thing wrong with Chad Kelly in terms of injuries was not the knee, was not the wrist, was that he had a bad hernia. And he needed a full year away from the field to really remake his body so that he wouldn't put himself at more risk. And I honestly think that, when he got this year off, but when he started to get on the active roster for about a week, everyone was talking about him throwing 70-yard passes and stuff. But what they didn't say is that apparently he was pushing the staff like, I want to compete for playing time. Like, was literally like so maniacal about doing it that they were like, shut up and sit down. You're going to we're putting on you on IR for the year. you need to basically relax. We know you're working hard, and he works maniacally, and he's been offered at every turn to go out and hang out with his crew of guys, that have gotten to know him, and he's turned them down at every opportunity because he basically is working his tail off. So I want to see for the next 12 years, I want to see Mahomes Kelly rivalries out of these two players, because I think if they become the players I think they can become, the AFC West will be one of the best divisions to watch in football for a decade.
Man,
I love that take. I love Kelly too. Matt, quickly, if you don't mind, I know this is a little bit off topic. Could you talk to me a little bit very quickly about Kirk Cousins and where do you think he kind of is as far as, is he mid quarterback too? Yeah, just how he kind of suits up against the rest of the quarterbacks in the league.
I mean, I think that if he goes to a place like Denver, where he's got a good route runner like Emmanuel Sanders and a guy who erases inaccuracies like the Demaryius Thomas on deep balls, jump balls, types of things like that, he could be as good of a quarterback as he was in Washington for fantasy owners. I was never a huge fan of Cousins coming out because I felt like that he's his, like how your kids look at the menu at a diner and they go, I want this, and this. And you're like, you don't want to order that. Yeah. And then they order like $20 worth of food and they eat like 25 cents worth of it.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So I'm third down and under pressure with pressure around him. Kirk Cousins has that kind of syndrome where he sees a throw that he thinks he can make that he has no business trying to attempt because he doesn't have that kind of arm. And so he still makes those kinds of screwed up decisions at times, but he is a smart quarterback. He's just not always wise. And he has gotten better and better. And if a team matches him up, where he can play from a rhythm, and that's, an Emmanuel Sanders type of game. And Demaryius Thomas has certainly gotten a lot better at that. And if there's a player I missed really bad on, by the way, Demaryius Thomas was one of my worst misses ever. But he, he's developed into a really good route runner. Those two guys could really be helpful for Kirk Cousins. And I think that he can, at worst, if he's on a bad team, he's a low-end quarterback, 1 in 16 team leagues. If he's on a team like the Broncos, he could be a top 5 quarterback in any given year, depending on how healthy they are.
Agreed.
Do you think it makes sense for my Vikings to sign him? Because Vikings Twitter is insane about the Cousins talk.
Well, I guess my question is the team that skittish about Teddy? Is Teddy being let go? Is it, what's going on with him is the big question for me.
Yeah.
If they're letting him go, then yeah, Kirk Cousins would be a nice he's kind of an, I hate to say it, but it's like he's that nice safe layup on the golf course. I mean, I think that's basically what he is, and with a team like that, you can work with that, and with that defense, with the offensive line, with the skill players around him, he's a little better than a safe layup. It's just that he's not an inspiring choice. When you think about matching a player with that team, what you'd hope is that, Drew Brees gets in an argument with Sean Payton and they draft Lamar Jackson and decide to start him right away, and they trade his behind to a team like the Vikings, in that same dysfunctional rigmarole that happened with, the Packers, back with Favre back in the day and all of the things that happened there. So, but yeah, I like it. I think it'd be all right.
All right.
That's what's up.
Fair enough.
I think that'll do it unless y'all have anything else.
Are we done, J Mike?
I've got so many superlatives, but it is.
We need more games, J Mike. one more round.
That was like a 45-minute game, J Mike.
Guys, at the very beginning, I said y'all give me a player and one line about him, and everybody proceeded to give me novellas about each player.
That's right.
Do
you got a crazy one?
Man.
Do you have a crazy superlative that you didn't use? If I can say the word right now.
No, I didn't have any other crazy ones.
Okay.
No, none of them that were as fun as the Hugh Jackson one.
That was a good one. I love that.
Good.
All right.
Well, sweet.
This man, this was like so. I don't know. Like as far as open bar goes, like I don't know. So informational, and for you to just be able to sit and talk, and for me to just like I felt like I was just watching Sports Center at a bar and like drinking and just like listening and learning. So it was just like so amazing. Thank you for coming on, Matt. It was spectacular.
It was my pleasure. This was a lot of fun, guys, and this was a great way to end the night, or at least begin my night of more film watching. But I had a good time, so thank you for having me on, and I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, we didn't even have to ask. He said, "Do it again." Dang. I don't know if he's just being nice or he means that, but that makes me feel good.
It was fun, definitely.
Jake, would you like to say any words about yourself?
No. This night was all about Matt, and thank you so much for coming on. I've been a huge fan of your work for so long, and just a blast interacting with you and hearing your knowledge. And again, just appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much, guys. It was really a pleasure. I enjoyed this a lot. So I appreciate you having me on. And again, we'll have to do it again.
Yes. Bring
twice.
Bring eggplant parm for everyone.
That means he's not just being nice.
That's right.
Twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do I need to say it third time? Like, no, you can sit.
That would really
have some more. No, I really can't. Yes, yes.
Matt. How was it on the show? Would you come? Would you come back? Just like wondering, asking for a friend.
I mean, you just want to move in, and we'll just record whenever we feel like it. We can have eggplant parms at midnight together.
I'm telling you, there we go. We can go over to
the
deli. I get them.
I think we found a new co-host.
Yes.
Take that jacket off, Jake. You're done.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Awesome, fellas. Thank you very much.
Have a good night, Matt.
You too. Take it easy, fellas.
All right, Matt.
All right.
Oh, that's good.
J Mike, say some things, and then I'll say some things, and then we'll raise our glasses, and then we'll.
Sounds good, man. It is an absolute privilege for us to be able to continue to do this. Gabe and I are basically blood brothers, so we love the fact that we can bring this to you guys. And big shout to Jake with the Matt Waldman get. He handled all the behind the scenes on that, so that was fantastic. On Twitter, everybody's Twitter handles. Obviously, the show is at the Open Bar FP, as in fake pigskin. You can find my co-host Gabe Gearing on Twitter at Grab Bag Fantasy. You can find Jake at NFL Draft Talker. If you need an avatar, holla at him. If you need hot takes, holla at him. He'll probably most likely be in the Pigs 3 Voxer that is just constantly flying off the handle. It's crazy right now. You can find Matt Waldman on Twitter at Matt Waldman, and obviously the website being mattwaldmanrsp.com. And you can find me, humbly speaking, John Michael at JMikeCheck at JMICCheck on Twitter. And again, you never know when Gabe and I'll decide to do a show. So stay close to your Twitterverse, stay close to your podcast catcher. Apparently, we just found out we're on Stitcher. that's how we know we made it. Yeah, we were informed. We were informed we're on Stitcher. Mama, I made it.
By John Bosch. Shout out to John Bosch. Thanks for letting us know.
You guys had no idea.
So many
guys. One quick little thing. Just for Matt again. If anybody that listens to this podcast is watching, if you've never purchased RSP, it's honestly the best value you will get in your dynasty investment all year long. And like I said, he comes out with a pre-draft RSP and then a post-draft RSP. It's a great way to dive in when you don't have enough time to dive into tape and analytics and just get some background on these guys. And there's nobody better in this business at evaluating fantasy players than the Matt Waldman.
And let's be real, 95% of us don't have that kind of time to put into film watching and everything else.
Trust me, you do not want to watch all that tape.
I'm not about that life. Okay, I got kids I'm trying to feed. Okay,
as Kevin O'Brien would say, let's just borrow some brilliance from this.
There you go. That's right.
Yes, good book. All right. You said all the good things. I guess we should shout out our website that we're hosted on. I know you kind of mentioned a little bit, Fake Pigskin. We've got their little subscribe thing as well. It's cheap. You can get it on the yearly basis or the monthly basis. It's like what, $3 a month or something. So just go out there and do it. All the content, all the love. Go out there and get it. We're on a podcast, so you can check this out tomorrow. But if not, every Tuesday, not every Tuesday, some Tuesdays, 9:30. I want to say every Tuesday, J Mike, because I want to be here with you in my arms every Tuesday. But and by arms, I mean, vocal.
Dibs on Big Spoon.
Sure. Yeah. You know what? How do you feel about Grapefruit Tunes?
When and where?
Could you give me a superlative, please?
Superlative. All right. That'll do it. We'll be back. You know what? We'll probably the Combine's March 2nd.
Combine's next week, I thought. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll be back. We'll be right back. We'll be back right after that. We'll be talking about Cortland Sutton and how he just blew up the Combine, and who cares about his hands? So, put your drinks up, fellas, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Oh yeah, I got to put pictures of my cornrows up. All right.
Oh yes, please.
Yes.
I'm not leaving until I
Pistol
see
Pete Bungie Maravich.
Oh my God, too much sauce. All right, we'll see y'all in a couple weeks. Deuces.
Post Malone.